Hello, ladies and gents. I am back. Hopefully, you've all had a lovely week and enjoyed the couple of videos I put out previously. I do apologize about the voice. Since I got back, it's just gone to rat shit, honestly. So, to get a video out to you guys, as promised, because it was supposed to be a 22 Gambit pug versus non-pug side by side, we're going to put that on the bench slightly while I deal with the editing side of things. And instead, today, we are going to go through a 24 Street that I did. This is probably the worst I have ever played, but it was still timed, and it's good to go through it, partially due to the fact that I was still in festival brain, so was recovering from that, but also I was lagging a lot, and it was just generally messy. But there's still a lot we can take away from it for this week when we push the 23s, 24s, and try and get our score up higher. Hopefully my voice isn't too bad for you guys, but I will try and keep it limited as we go through the video. So without any further delay, let's get into it. So, going into the video then, we have 24 Streets. Again, trigger warning for anyone that wants to see fantastic gameplay. This is not it, so please just do bear that in mind and try not to be triggered. Now, with it being a tyrannical week, Zomaz here isn't as threatening as in Fortified, because this man is an absolute beast. I say man, I assume so. So it's pretty much just use cooldowns and crack on. You see I Dark Packed early, sacrificing some of my health and just giving myself a shield because I don't know who's going to be targeted with what. And it just kind of alleviates the problem that our healer needs to focus on. This was a pug. This isn't an organized team. Well, I say it's a pug. I'm playing with people that I know. I'm playing with Mad Skills again, and a couple of other people from his stream, but we're not on any coordinated voice chat. And listening to Mad via his stream means that I am hearing things on a couple of seconds delay, which means that things like getting kicks or needing dispels and stuff, I'm a little bit late to react, and you'll actually see that on the council fight, essentially, or when we get to the marketplace within this, because I do something that's very, very unusual, which I wasn't aware of. So I learned something new in a 24 of all things. Now, this tank was really aggressive, more aggressive than I am used to, and that is saying something given the fact that I used to play with Stormy, our old neon blue tank. I say neon blue because the moment a pack looked like it was about to die, he was in cat form and he was off. But this Death Knight gave him a run for the money. So this pull cadence was really, really good. I was struggling a little bit in terms of, oh shit, this is where we're going, okay. And you can see on screen I am lagging. There are moments where I'm just not pressing anything, and that's because I am frozen on my end. So only doing 27k DPS is rather pitiful, in my own opinion. But given the lag I had while doing this, I don't think it was too bad. Now, moving on to Zodar, again, with it not being a fortified week, he's a little bit less scary, but I've worked out through this particular dungeon that you can line of sight the main AoE around this corner, which I'm pointing at the screen like you can see it. If you can see my mouse, it's just this box region, which we will be tanking it to in a moment. So you can see that he's already pulled Zildar. We're relying on to get Mad's heal, Mad's mana back, and we're just going. Now, you have to be quick because you have these empowered casts, and they're the ones that need kicking. The hypo bolts are high single target damage, but by empowering the rift, it means that his pulsing AoE is much more dangerous. So you can see we're tanked on this spot. And I didn't realize this was line of sightable. Again, something you learn when you actually play with people that are pushing 25s and 26s. Rather than, your 14s, 15s, and, getting your 20s for your teleports that I was accustomed to. So I am still learning, and I'm by no means that's the best. So you can see there I dive out a little bit, reducing my damage, but I use Curse of Tongues to give us that little bit longer to cast. Because that empowered cast there, you can see is extremely quick, and that is with Tongues. So you need to be on the ball to prevent that cast. But by doing so, it means that Radiant Pulse and other abilities don't hurt as much. Now, unfortunately, this boss isn't the smoothest and does take us quite a while. Zofex. And partially due to lag, but also partially due to the fact that the canisters aren't really dealt with particularly well. So you can see I'm trying to game the volcanics last week. I got back late Monday, was sleep deprived, so basically went to sleep, which meant that I only had yesterday to get my weeklies done and everything else. So tried very, very hard to get everything done prior to reset today. Managed most of it, but So you can see here that the interrogations are pretty much immune early on by our DK and our Hunter when our Hunter gets it next, but then we start running into a few problems. You can see I have a bit of a brain fart with the Contraband. I hate that ability. Like, it makes no sense. Right, okay, you've taken my staff, but I can still cast spells. It's like disarming a monk. Like, why? Like, I get it from, like, PvP purposes or something, but for PvE it just makes no sense. So, you've got a Slayer, who is our survival hunter. He turtles this one. And the boss is going down okay. You can see here that I'm trying. I was going to try and game the next ability, but got unfortunate as my demonic circle came down, so I had to cancel Aura it. And then while trying to position around this boss so I can get past his rotary body armor. Now, this is where Ace ends up getting targeted again, but this time he doesn't have Turtle, so he disengages, but he doesn't disengage far. And it doesn't really give us a lot of time to save him. So we try to Spirit Link, but he still dies. Now, spoiler alert, I die next. Not necessarily because of lack of distance, but just because there wasn't enough damage done to the prison containment thing. So you'll see momentarily. I end up repositioning for fully armored. Now, mistake play there, I use Soul Shape when I should have held Soul Shape for this moment. Now, because of where all the melee DPS have been, I am kind of in a rough spot in terms of where to run. And this is where I should have held Soul Shape. Alternatively, I should have portaled. So, even though I walled and thingied, there was still 41k left on the prison. So, unfortunately, I died. If I'd been a little bit more on the ball, I could have probably swapped my pet, but my pet still wouldn't have done that 41k. So, can't be helped. Now, because the boss goes down and we're still very, very early on in the dungeon, this is an immediate release spirit, and the group can move on. Now, I misclick my banner there, just for the fun of it, and just mount up and get going. You can see that I don't have my demon out, but as I'm running, I just speed summon, and you can see that the red bar there indicates that I am lagging. Lagging just a bit. It's not crippling me at the moment, but it does get quite bad later. And again, I can only apologize for that, but as I said, it's still, for what it's worth, it's still a good dungeon. It just means that I've got much space to improve for the next one. One thing to note, though, which probably made this dungeon considerably harder than it needed to be, is that at no point have I seen the Hunter make use of Trank Shot. Because you have to remember, on a Raging Week, you can trank shot, you can soothe, and you can remove the raging affix on key targets. So these overseers, for instance, would be a really good example of that. When one of them rages, remove the raging from one of them. It means they're a lot less scary for the tank and, by proxy, the healer. So you can see that the first one had raged for a while before the other, and they're just not removed. This is one of those weeks where having hunters, rogues, and druids is really beneficial. But not a lot of hunters seem to know that trank shot is both a magic dispel and an enrage dispel. So Zorkis, this gets really sloppy, again, because we don't really have much communication and we don't know what the tank's doing. The tank's just moving it wherever. Now I try and move forward, and instead the tank is then pulling me into the beam. So I'm now in this position where I have to go through it. Which isn't great. So you can see that a lot of damage is going out. Hunters had to turtle, which means that they're not doing any damage, and then we're just getting beams put in front of us, so we need to move and get out of there. Whereas the tank is obviously trying to limit the amount of movement required, but at the same time, with these beam splitters, you need to just get out of the way in somewhere safe. So you can see here that we're in quite a precarious situation, and it's gaming that Chaos Bolt, trying to move, gaming it, I get cast on again, and we end up in this position. But you can see that someone had got stuck, so ended up taking a lot of unnecessary damage there. Now, this is one of the few packs where having Curse of Tongues is really good, because again, although we do have 5 kicks in this group, we don't know how good they are. So you can see there that Nikogo, our Frost DK, a Blood DK, had missed a kick. Now, even without Curse of Tongues, a melee kick can get every Ancient Dread. So if you have 2 melee DPS, you can assign Ancient Dread to each of them, and then Lava Breath can just be kicked as and when. Now, the Dire Horn, I don't know how many people know this, but it's worth saying. You see me jump up here, and this is because the charge cannot hit you when you're up here. Unfortunately, the tank wants to just go. So, as a result, I end up trying to reposition to get here, which protects me from the Dire Horn, but does not protect me from the leaping Nightclaws. So you'll see here that I get leapt on, which causes a poor moment of judgment, where I drop Unending Resolve, Dark Pact, and still get charged. So that was a little bit of poor timing on my end, and could have potentially have killed me due to the combination of fall damage and incoming damage from other things. But that was a panic moment of, oh shit, these Nightclaws are going to jump to me. And I was worried that all of them would jump to me when raging, at which point I just physically can't be healed by mad. And this is just kind of a lack of communication. And we'll discuss that in depth when I do the pug guide, and I'm able to talk a little bit more, and I don't sound like, I've just eaten 3 meals of heavy gravel all day. So, because we've got a little bit of time before Bloodlust is back, we decide to take this pack early. Well, I say we decide to, the tank decides to, and we just react. And again, this is where I have a moment where I am really lagging, because I'm trying to cast. And as a byproduct, end up just getting locked out. But still doing okay, 26, 27k DPS. But it's by no means great. Like, you can see that my overall DPS so far is 14.2k, which is by far the lowest you guys have seen me do for a long time. So, not the greatest, but still, we're doing okay. Someone's got to be bottom, and at least the tank's not above me. That's the main thing. Thankfully, Mad is pulling 7.3k and doing a cracking job of carrying my weight somewhat. But I believe he timed his first 27 this week, so congratulations to him on that front. So, this boss is where you see me do the rather unique swap. And what I essentially do is I swap from having Creelum out. Ah, yeah. You can see there. I was closing other systems down because I thought that was what was contributing to my lagging. I wasn't playing it. I've downloaded it, but I wasn't playing it. If you want referral links, by all means, message. But yeah, so Creelum, my Fell Hunter, is really, really good in this fight if we don't have an offensive dispel for the protocol, because I can dispel and kick quite quickly, and in other dungeons and keys, this is what I have to do. Now, your imp is also beneficial here because you can dispel somebody and help the healer drastically. This is another Kultharok moment where your pet utility can be very strong. So we deal with the Dismantler. Alcrux is slowly going down. I think I was a little bit late to my Infernal, but now you can see that time I was able to properly get off a gateway, or a demonic circle, sorry. So that's something that you need to bear in mind. Now, we've got the Havoc off. We're going through our rotation. Alcrux is about to die. And this is the point where over Mad's stream, he discusses that I can swap pet. So, Flagellation Protocol comes out, it gets dispelled, it gets kicked. And I'm about to swap pet mid-fight. So you can see me do it there, which means that Guzzle, bless his little heart, is actually on passive. So I don't realise this for a while. So he just stands there and looks at me. Because obviously the last time I have him out, I must have put him on passive for some reason. But this now means that the dispel falls to Mad. But you can see here that I am then able to dispel, or I attempted to dispel. I realise I'm a little bit too far out, so kind of move in a little bit. But there does come a point where I start dispelling. So I realise that my pet's kind of doing his own thing. I dispel our Frost DK, Phillips, and we crack on. Because you can see here that within the weak aura, you have Fell Cauterization, or which is just here, or Fell Singe. And it's on a short enough cooldown that you can dispel. So I was able to dispel myself there after Mad died. Now, this is where things get really, really sloppy, because whoever is using Gluttony is not utilizing Gluttony correctly. So you can see that they're just running out, and they're not staying within the area in order to absorb these anima circles. So it gets very, very sloppy very, very quickly. And I question whether people were relying on me to do something or what, I don't know. So you can see there that I dispel Mad because Mad was running onto me. And the last thing I wanted was to be slapped. So I'm having to essentially deal with the damnation thing myself. And at this moment was kind of like, maybe I should have left it. Maybe that would have kept me out, made this a little bit easier. But we go into it anyway. So chains go out. I soul rot because this is now turned into a 2-target moment and we can utilize it. And then we just keep slapping onto cold fuse, or gold fuse, sorry. So you can see that we do have someone running around doing Gluttony, but by this point gold fuse should really be tanked rather close to Acolyte, or Akite. Whatever the golem's name is. Because in doing so, it means that whoever has the Gluttony can stand, do DPS, and isn't running around needlessly. Because you got to remember, this is 2 melee DPS. Now, we're having to utilize Havoc because it is literally just me and Mad that are dealing with the chains. This does mean that we are both suffering quite a lot, and it means that as a Warlock, our DPS outside of our Havoc windows is suffering as well. So we're not doing great at this front. Boss is taking far too long. It is already pushing like a 4-minute fight. Also, slight side note while we go through this, after a previous YouTuber comment about having the detailed streamer action tracker on, hopefully you guys can read it all right. If you can't, please do comment below, and I will endeavor to change its text size and anything else so it does become more legible and easier for you guys to read. On my secondary screen, at least, as a preview of what you guys are going to see, it seems alright, but this is obviously on a computer screen rather than, you know, mobile phones or tablets or whatever else you may be watching my content on. So please do let me know, and I can try and make it work for everybody. Now, one of the problems with having this particular comp is I'm standing probably in the wrong place. I should have moved and let Mad have this space. But I am aware that as a shorter race, it can be problematic, because I have heard Vulperas and I believe goblins as well both complain about being where I'm currently stood. Because where I'm stood, it prevents you from being pulled around anywhere, but that does require the melee to stay on the other side of the boss, because you can clip each other through this barrier, as it were, and still do a considerable amount of damage to each other. Now, on a tyrannical week, it's probably not going to kill you outright, but on a fortified week, it will. So that's something that you very, very, very much have to be wary of. So far goes down. Not too much to report. We've had about 4 deaths at this point. And we're looking like everything's going to be okay. For the most part. Now, again, preemptive spoilers, but this is about to turn into a clusterfuck. So, laugh and enjoy. Now, because things are lagging quite badly, we start the RP, and I thought that we were going to go do that boss, come back and last, but the tank seems to have other ideas. So, we back up, and we're going to go do post. Now, I have already preemptively used or activated the portal so we can get to this side, because I primarily was lagging and thought I was going to die a few times. Now, we do end up with a death here, and this is because our boy just rips aggro. Philip just got slapped. Which, to be fair, the man was popping off and doing some serious work, so kudos to him, but I don't think the tank was ready. I do not think the tank was ready for it at all. So, Mad is now having to res. I think maybe Mad should have probably tried standing in the circle for the extra 50% haste, but I don't know if that affects resurrections. It might do, it might not. So, this ends up becoming like a really, really, really big pull. So I move, I grab myself a health stone, move forward, and banish the farm elemental, because we are going to need that for the haste buff. And then it just becomes a case of trying to do AoE and everything else that we need to. Philip again ends up ripping aggro and going down. Not 100% sure what happened here. I think he just did too much snap AoE, like maybe it was a Frostwind's Fury or something like that, but he just got clapped again. Now the male mental is about to die, and Philip ends up just taking the CR. So we're down to 1 combat res, and we have 7 minutes 13 seconds left until the next one. So this is now very much touch and go waters, because if we end up with 1 or 2 deaths, it's a wipe. And we don't have Bloodlust, but this tank is wanting to go. So we deal with the male mental. I am holding at this point for shards. It's not the smoothest way to play, and ideally you'd probably want to try and do this fight as Demonology if you could, because Demonology scales are so much better with this amount of haste. Because I am currently at 179.71 haste, now at 221.67% haste. And I lag, because my computer is crying. So I am just frozen in space, not doing anything, and it's a surprise when I look at the when we're able to move, and I'm doing about 30k DPS. It's not great. Now the hunter solo soaked out, which was good, but this fight just generally gets a little bit on the sloppy side. So you can see I'm trying to work out where I need to go. It's far distance, so we soul shape and we throw it in. Now this fight is partially because we didn't have the bloodlust, but this fight becomes really, really stressful. So I actually start utilizing Warlock healing capability. So you will see me throughout this fight use things like Mortal Coil and Drain Life. And this is to try and minimize how much Mad is struggling. It does severely hamper our damage, but we end up in this position where we have to. So you can see there that I only resolved. I also Mortal Coiled within the Spirit Link, and to redistribute the healing from that in order to take that soak, because we were all exceptionally low. And at this point, over comms or over stream, Mads is talking about people might need to look to sack themselves because we do have a CR, but it's not easy. So you can see there that I'm actually drain lifing. Now this is one of those rare occasions where drain life probably actually helped, because it gave us a couple of extra ticks of life, and then Mad's mastery kicked in and got us up higher. And we've just got Bloodlust back. So the boss is at 40% health and we've got Bloodlust, which is kind of going to act as both a pseudo DPS increase and a pseudo HPS increase. Now, Nico goes down there, or very nearly goes down, and we're now in a really, really tight spot, because that purple thing expanded while we were soaking, and I'm now going to make the executive decision. Should I get targeted at this point, I sack. So you can see there that I quickly picked 2 up. Mortal Coil's not back for another 20 odd seconds, so any time that I'm struggling for health, I am going to have to drain life at this point. But then we end up with this situation where the hazardous liquid comes out. We just ignore the soaks at this point. Or we try to ignore them as best we can. And I get money order on me. So I basically sacked myself. I dark packed it because I thought I could maybe survive it. You know, that Warlock mentality of I am a tank. But realizing in hindsight that I probably should have just left dark packed, because it was going to kill me anyway. But in doing so, it means that Mad doesn't have to struggle, because he is literally out of mana. He has 3% of his mana left at the end of that fight, which meant that he would have struggled massively had he tried to heal me and keep me alive. So that was a tactical death. At the point where the boss was so low, it was easily doable without me, which is something you have to be wary of. It kind of sucks, but it needs must at this point, because this is my first ever 24 key. So what you can see up next to my interrupt now is the Tazavesh trading market weak aura that tells you where each of these go on a small minimap, which is something I've only, I literally just acquired today. It's something I say today. I acquired it this morning when we did this key at, 2 in the morning. So this is something I need to get accustomed with. Thankfully, the hunter volunteered. Otherwise, I would have done it, because I didn't realize this is how easy it was at the time. But I now have it, so can now do it in the future if need be, because I can just, hit soul shape, pick it up, and get to where I need to be. Although it'll be interesting to see if you can use gateway around with it. I might have to test it in a non-mythic to see if you can do the section with circles and gateways after they remove the silence effect on it, because it used to silence you, so it made monks really, really good for carrying it, but they've removed that back at the start of 9.2, I believe. Or was it 2.5? Either which way, in a recent patch they removed it as a hotfix. I am still in the red MS during this video, so this is great. Now this is something, so yeah, you can see them still suffering lag issues. Now that gateway choice is something that you need to bear in mind as a Warlock if you want to speed up getting out of this room. Now, this little bit did scare me because the weapons got put back down, so we had to repick them up. And going back to the Tazavesh bug that I did a few months ago, there is the option for the weapons to just not respawn because the horn instrument will consume them. So, a bit of dancing around. I do try to apply curses to make this fight a little bit easier, but honestly, the curse application was more because I am next to nigh on useless. Now, this is a really bad camera angle, and as a result, I'm about to get punished and put straight into pod, which is a shame, but honestly, it's my own fault for having a bad camera angle like that. I should have moved my camera up as I have now, but you can dark pact while in pod, which will just keep your pod alive. As long as you're not targeted by any other abilities. Apologies for the yawning. So, not too much to report really for the rest of this fight. That was pretty much the only silly mistake I made here, but it does mean that we are exceptionally tight for time, because we've still got 2 more rounds of this to go, and then we also have the final boss of the raid, this dungeon to do, the raid. Sorry, my brain is currently on the fact that I'm supposed to be doing Mythic Raggle on tonight. I'm starting my official trial with Erased, and I'll be honest, I'm absolutely terrified. It'll be interesting to see. If we down it, a great video for you guys. A great 6-minute video, hopefully. But we shall see. It'll be my first time raiding in a few weeks. So, anyway, back to the video. So you can see that I am getting clipped by a couple of things where I shouldn't be. Volcanoes, I am trying to greed. Should really try and see if there's like a week or a timer for when a volcano's near you and is about to detonate. But just generally poor play. Something to improve on the next time I do a 24 Tazavesh. We can compare them side by side. Because you guys seem to like that kind of content. So, you can see that I got you can see through that particular section, you don't have to be dead line on with getting through your circles, you just have to clip them, because I still ended up with 9. Which, to be fair, should have probably got like one more extra, after the one I missed where I just stopped dead in front of it, but still, 9 isn't too bad. Now, the timing for the suppression is tight, but as you can see there are notes that you're supposed to go through which will refresh your buff and enable the fight to carry on, because you can see that it's now just about to time out. So the whole point is that you extend it during these suppression things, but you have to have faith in being able to go in, find the notes that you need, and then get out. And obviously with my problems throughout this particular key, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. It was just react, get out of dodge, don't die. Because we do now have 2 combat reses available to us, but realistically we don't want to be using them, because even though it is a combat res, it is still a 5-second time penalty, plus then the ramp time for anything like getting pets out or cooldowns or whatever else the problem may be. So, ideally, keep out of it. Power sliding to avoid crowd control. Makes me feel like Sojourn from Overwatch 2. Looking forward to the beta for that. That'll be good. It'll be good to finally get some Overwatch 2 going. Yeah, not really too much to say really for Zogron. It's, don't get hit by the green shit, which I failed to do. Now, interesting side note actually, just before I take it. you can see that the gateway portal is actually at the bottom of the floor. As long as you activate it up top here and cast it as you're going down, you can ignore this and you don't have to worry about it. So if it looks like this, you do not have to necessarily worry about it. As long as you cast it while stood up there, it will still activate as it has done. And you can see that I get up there without the gateway thing. So that is just a visual bug or issue that you need to be wary of if you're a new Warlock to Streets of Wonder. So we have what is essentially going to be 4 minutes 30 to kill the final boss. Actually, no, I think it was 4:20 by the time you get through the RP and stuff. But yeah, so we've got like just over 4 minutes to deal with this. Now, one big problem I have is this is a pet despawn problem. And honestly, it isn't bloody half annoying. It's worse when when you're a demon not demon hunter. When you've got a Felguard and your demonology. Just losing your Felguard. Thankfully, Fel Domination isn't too shabby, but it still sucks having to spend a 2-minute cooldown to get your pet out in time. Now, obviously 4 targets, you soul rot, and then we just go into the rotation. So, there we go, Havoc Dismantler, and then just go into the rotation, trying not to get hit by the portals as they're moving around, because the last thing we want is to be put in a stupid place and get hit by an ability that's no good. Now, unfortunately, RNG kind of cucks us a little bit because we end up in this situation where Shuri is pretty much in the same place 3 times, which doesn't make transportation easy, and in hindsight, what I should have done is placed a gateway or demonic circle at the other end of the room. So you can see here that I am struggling to safely avoid Shuri. And there's the third one, all on triangle. So we're now in this position where it's like, and just run to circle, because circle's safe. But that is a lot of time where I'm not casting. We do get Bloodlust back. The boss is just below 70% health, and this is now the first divide comes in. Thankfully, the first divide, he dies onto me, which means we can stand still. Now, this double technique, for a lot of people that don't seem to know, because I have been in groups where you just like rapidly double kick. If you rapidly double kick, there's a chance he casts a 3rd time so quickly it just wipes you. The whole point of this is you kick the first one, and then you save the last one until the very, very end, like sub to 1.5 seconds if you can, and this gives you like 10-ish seconds where he is doing nothing but just standing there and taking damage, which on a fight like this, when he jumps around a lot, which reduces melee up time and divide where you can't fight through the wall, as well as things like Shuri and everything else, you need to maximize your uptime for this guy. So you can see that he's at 35% health, we've got less than 2 minutes, and we need to get over there. And it's an absolute maze. Now, another thing that Warlocks can do, and Monks can do it as well, is Demonic Circle or Transcend. If you dedicate a section to put your Transcend or something, you can just go straight there. But that can also be a problem in terms of having the wrong section, essentially, then the boss may never use it. Now, getting over the Shuri line, the white circle that is spreading out that does an incredible amount of damage, you can blink over it or you can soul shape over it. As long as you have instant movement rather than something like a circle or gateway, you can get past it. So you can see there that we kind of play the hokey cokey a bit. And I end up having to play like double hokey cokey to get there, and then Shuri just literally spawns on me as I'm going through, which was an awfully scary moment. I did not like it at all. But this is one of those things with Sozami. You have to either do everything quickly or you have to do everything slow. So you can see that we've already had the first kick on double technique. Mad and Nick both used their kicks, which means that it's down to the rest of us. I was just about to kick before Ace, but Ace beat me to it, so I didn't need to, thankfully. And this is one of the few benefits of having Fell Hunter's kicks be off the GCD. But you can see there that we time it with less than 18 seconds remaining. And honestly, that was a key that we had no right timing, because my end of key DPS was just less than 12k. So something that I had no right to time, but I feel like we've still managed to learn a fair bit from it, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Again, I do apologize for the voice, but I wanted to get something out to you guys as quickly as I could on my return, kind of to keep up the consistency that I promised you back at the start of the year. So I will work on the editing for the other video, for the 222s, so we can compare pugs versus organized gameplay. And then hopefully we will also have a mythic Rygalon kill video to put up, and we can look forward to my trial as a cutting edge raider. So in the meantime, have a wonderful day, folks, and I will see you all in the next one.